This morning, I want to talk about the topic of fulfillment and that it is not a destination. The teachings of the Buddha, fulfillment in our lives is not a place where we arrive. It's not a prize we obtain. It's not a static state that we achieve once and for all and then we're done. Rather, it's a dynamic quality that arises moment to moment when we live in alignment with the Dharma and the universal truths that are contained in the Dharma. So from a Buddhist perspective, the belief that fulfillment, and by that I mean, our lives are complete, the belief that fulfillment is a destination is a fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of existence. And it's rooted in our old friends' craving and attachment. True fulfillment is not something external to us. Rather, it's a way of being that emerges from within when our mind is relatively free of clinging, aversion, and ignorance, the three poisons. The idea that fulfillment is a destination, but is deeply ingrained in our human psyche. It's certainly deeply ingrained in our culture. It's what our culture promises us, because it is the belief that if we work hard enough, achieve enough, acquire enough, one day we'll arrive at a place of lasting happiness and peace. We'll sort of reach the top of the mountain. And I can tell you that I spent many years mired in this belief, the belief that if I did all the right things, that I would have lasting peace and happiness. And as I said, it's fueled by the three poisons. Craving drives us to chase after external goals, thinking they will make us whole. Aversion causes us to resist what we dislike, believing that fulfillment lies in avoiding discomfort, getting rid of any discomfort. That becomes the goal. And then ignorance or delusion blinds us to the impermanent nature of things, the interdependent nature of things. And the three of these together lead us to believe that external achievements or possessions bring us lasting satisfaction. The Buddha taught that the pursuit of fulfillment as a destination is part of samsara. Samsara is the Pali word for this endless cycle of suffering driven by our own desires and attachments. In the Dhammapada, that little book of Buddha sayings, the Buddha says, quote, "Craving is the origin of sorrow. Craving is the origin of sorrow." When we believe that fulfillment lies in some future moment or external achievement, we only perpetuate our suffering. Let me say that again because it's really critical here. When we believe that fulfillment lies in some future moment or external achievement, we perpetuate our suffering. Even when we attain what we desire, even when we reach that goal, it is impermanent. It is always subject to change. The new job, the perfect relationship, the ideal body weight, whatever we think will bring us fulfillment when we get there, will eventually fade. It will change. It will lose its appeal. The luster will fall away. In contrast to the delusion of a distant destination, the Buddha teaches us that fulfillment is found in the present moment if we seek that. The practice of mindfulness is central to this understanding. When we are fully present with our experience, without clinging to what we like or pushing away what we dislike, we touch into a sense of completeness that is not dependent on external conditions. I'm not focused on getting rid of the unpleasant and clinging to the pleasant. I am sitting in the moment, and I'm not relying on those external conditions for my happiness, my contentment. And this is what the Buddha is talking about when he talks about liberation. It's not a place, it's not a goal, but it's a state of freedom from craving and attachment. I like this metaphor of a traveler climbing a mountain. If the traveler is fixating on reaching the summit, they overlook the beauty of the path, the sound of the birds along the way, the feel of the breeze, the beauty of the landscape. I talk about in my book my experience with watching the sunsets when we're in Jamaica. I was so busy sitting there lamenting the fact that this experience would soon end that I completely missed the beauty of the moment. I completely was focused on the fact that it was going to go away. We suffer along the way thinking that fulfillment lies only at the top of the mountain. But if we walk up the mountain mindfully, if we appreciate each step, if we're fully present with our journey, we discover that the joy we seek is already available in the moment. This is critical. If we're in the moment, the joy is already there. It's not up at the top of the mountain. And in this way, fulfillment is not a distant destination or another thing to be achieved. It is the quality of our awareness that we cultivate in the here and now. It is the quality of our awareness in the here and now. This is the middle way that the Buddha talked about as a path to fulfillment. It avoids the extremes of indulgence on the one hand, and it avoids asceticism and sacrifice on the other, but teaches us, asks us to live with balance, wisdom, and compassion. And this same principle of middle way also applies to our understanding of fulfillment. On the one hand, we make an effort to cultivate wholesome qualities such as generosity, patience, mindfulness, which support our well-being. But on the other hand, we practice acceptance, recognizing that fulfillment does not depend on achieving certain outcomes, but on our relationship to the present moment. The Eightfold Path, of Buddha's practical guide to liberation, provides the framework for this. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. All of these practices help us see clearly, act skillfully, and cultivate inner peace. And fulfillment arises naturally when we live in harmony with these principles, not as the goal, not as the end point, but as an ongoing process. We talk about here a lot that a key aspect of Buddhism is letting go of expectations. When we cling to the idea that fulfillment is the destination, we are setting ourselves up for disappointment and suffering. This is what I meant when I spent many years mired in this. Whenever I'd get to the destination, it was like, well, where's the happiness? I guess I have to go to the next, or the next, or the next. It was an endless treadmill. But by letting go of our attachment to specific outcomes, we open ourselves to the fullness of life as it is. Now, this doesn't mean that we abandon our goals, we abandon our aspirations, but it means that we approach them with a spirit of equanimity. We don't see them as the end product. We understand that true fulfillment comes not from what we achieve, but how we engage with the journey. And furthermore, from a Buddhist perspective, fulfillment's not an individual achievement, it's a shared experience. When we recognize the interconnectedness of all beings, we see that our own well-being is bound up with the well-being of others. Compassion, the Pali word being karuna, is an essential quality of a fulfilled life. When we act with kindness and generosity, we contribute to the happiness of others and discover a deeper sense of fulfillment ourselves. We move out of our ego and the ego's demands into practicing kindness and generosity with others. This is why the Buddha emphasized the importance of ethical conduct and selfless service as a path, as part of the path to liberation. Fulfillment is not a destination because it cannot be found in something external or in a future moment. It is a quality of presence, a way of being that arises when we let go of craving, when we accept the impermanence of all things, and when we live in harmony with the Dharma. So again, fulfillment is not about achieving something, arriving somewhere. It is about being fully being fully present with life as it is, and in the meantime, cultivating wisdom, compassion, and equanimity. In this way, fulfillment is not some distant goal. It is always available in the here and now. We just have to tap into it. If only we have the eyes to see it. So that is, fulfillment is not a destination.